Hola everybody, please bear with me, I will just share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see my presentation. Please let me know if you can't. Firstly, hello, I'm Shelley Allen. I'm the Head of Open Research at Emerald Publishing. And firstly, I'd like to thank Conricate for allowing me to present to you today. I apologize that I do not speak Spanish, and so instead my colleagues have very kindly translated my presentation into Spanish for me. I will speak in English, and I believe there is a translator. I will try very hard to speak slowly as well. To let you know a little bit about me, I joined Emerald 18 months ago and have found it to be an exciting, innovative and collaborative company. And if you aren't familiar with Emerald, my colleagues have put together a short video for us, which they feel explains the ethos of Emerald and the approach we are trying to take as a publisher. So I'll just play that for you now.
I think it's really important that the work that we do reflects on the real world and the challenges that we as a society face.
One of the main benefits, I think, for interdisciplinarity is the potential for experimentation, which I think is really good. Because I think there's sort of this idea that in academia, you're just kind of sitting around and thinking about things, but actually there's a lot of structure. And I think interdisciplinarity does a really good job of kind of taking you away from that structure and allowing you to sort of experiment a little bit.
It's really important that we offer pathways to publication for people who want to make their research widely available in an open research environment. For Emerald Open Research, which is a number of gateways aligned to UN SDGs, and we're publishing content in traditional article format, but increasingly in different formats to really help disseminate work to a wider audience. It's really important that we understand the limitations of some of our traditional formats, and we think about new ways that we can help our authors and editors communicate. So we're looking at things like podcasts, we're looking at videos and video interviews. We're also looking at things like infographics. So really ask them what do they think is important, what would help them understand, what would help them spread their research to a wider audience.
I'm really excited about the opportunity for publishers, particularly for Emerald, to help researchers to extend their reach beyond the academy. So by helping them to bring research to new audiences in new forms that those audiences really use, we can play a role in mobilizing knowledge towards real impact.
So I hope that gives a good flavour of Emerald and what's important to us. And through the rest of my presentation, I'm going to dive into our approach specifically around open research and how that helps us to achieve our mission of real impact for the research that we publish. sorry. There we go. So at Emerald, we're passionate about two things: open research and the fact that it enables us, enables the research that we publish to achieve real world impact beyond the academy. And we want to drive innovation in open publishing. And as a publisher, mainly of applied social sciences, our focus is on meeting their needs, the needs of those communities that we serve. And most of our authors are indeed unfunded in the research that they are publishing, which gives us a very specific context in how we transition to open, and also in how we meet the needs of our authors and the communities that we serve, because we are not a one-size-fits-all publisher. Oh, sorry, I will go back. I don't know what happened there. There we go. Sorry about that. We don't believe in open for open's sake. We see research as being part of an ecosystem, and therefore we can't achieve our aims or those of our authors without working with librarians and funders, end users, policymakers, and all striving towards a more sustainable system of scholarly communication. We don't believe we believe that knowledge needs to be open in order for it to be mobilised to achieve reach and impact beyond academia. But it also, beyond just being freely available, it needs to be accessible and digestible and discoverable. And we aim to achieve these things with our progressive policies. So we have a zero embargo green policy, which is really important to our authors who don't have funding for APC models. And we also, as the video attested, we are supportive of new content types. We don't believe that research is article shaped, and that authors should be free to communicate their findings in the way that best mobilises their knowledge. And we're also investing in an industry leading platform in order to ensure that we're able to meet the future needs of our customers and not just what they're asking for now. So where are we now? Well, in terms of the ecosystem, the future is clearly open, and whilst there are many moving parts, we all need to adapt. However, we don't believe that all things are equal. There are major barriers to publication, and that's a major risk of the APC model, which is particularly prevalent in Europe and the West. And the pace of change is different. It's different in different disciplines, and it's different regionally as well. We see a real difference in customers and consortia, for example, or libraries asking for open or just not really ready to explore that for their authors just yet. And funding is very uneven. As I mentioned before, most of the research that we publish, less than 10% of our research is actually funded. So as a publisher, we need to modernise, and we need to do it rapidly. And the way people understand and consume the information in general in the world is changing very rapidly. And academic research can't stay in a bubble and achieve the impact that we're seeking to do. So clearly, the current pandemic is affecting all of our lives, as the fact that we're all here online today. And we will continue, and it will continue to do so, unfortunately, and could do so in ways that we don't yet understand, positively or negatively. But COVID-19 has been an important proof point for open research. It has shown the value of rapid publication. It has highlighted the issues we still need to work through, including quality assurance, reproducibility, and open data. We believe that the social sciences has a really important role to play in helping fight the pandemic. When we look at the social inequalities that the pandemic has shown, when we see the effects of fake news, when all of these things are as important to research and understand as much as the vaccine that we're all hoping for. But the benefits of open access to research have now been shown to all. And so we're seeing that there is much more interest, and that's only a good thing. So we wanted to understand further those barriers I already mentioned. Excuse me. So we wanted to understand further a lot of those barriers that we already mentioned, including around funding and the difference in disciplines. And in August this year, we surveyed over 170,000 of our community, including authors, librarians and students, to understand their views on open. And the results of the survey were really interesting to us. And so I'm sharing with you some of them here, as we're making them available as part of Open Access Week. And my colleagues will be tweeting about the survey over the next few days. So do follow and get the full results there. We surveyed about a lot of different things around real impact, including open access. So it's a really interesting survey, and you're just getting a snippet of it here. So do keep an eye out for that. In terms of what we were asking around openness, there has been a significant shift towards publishing open, including sharing links to data sets. So when we surveyed in 2019, only 29% of authors said that they were considering publishing openly, and that's now up to 51% just a year later, and that's fantastic. We're really pleased to see that the message is starting to get through, because previously we had been finding that our authors were a bit more resistant than authors in STEM subjects. They felt that the top enablers of change towards achieving impact wasn't just about openness, and they identified collaboration with industry and practice as being an important enabler of impact. And I do think in discussion with colleagues and in discussion with our authors that this is a real barrier and real challenge, forming those links, understanding how the pathways of impact work and how the research that's being conducted has led to real tangible change and how that's been measured. They also believe, obviously, that more research is being open, which is good for me as the head of open research, and I'm pleased to see that. And that also there needs to be a greater understanding of what impact means, and we think that's important. We're signatories of DORA, and we believe that the impact factor is just one very blunt measure to understand the impact of an article, and doesn't really tell you what it's done in the world and how it has affected change more generally. And so from that perspective, we're pleased to see that people do wish to see change in this area. There were some concerns around open data, which may be due to unfamiliarity or lack of support or other factors. So half of respondents were concerned over data sets that contain sensitive or personal information, with a fear that they would be inappropriate or unethical. And some authors still aren't sure how to share their data, although actually I personally think 7% is not too bad, but that still means that there are 7% who are not sure how to go about sharing their data, and even those that are sure, our experience has been that they do need a lot of support in the end to make their data openly available, and particularly in the social sciences, to even understand sometimes that they have data that is shareable. If they've got interviews or artwork, or what is data, and how can it be made accessible to others, and where can it be stored. These are all really important things that are real areas of confusion for a lot of our authors. So we also asked some questions around transparency of research, because that is an important tenet of open research. And 80% of respondents still prefer the double-blind peer review process. They feel this is the most effective. And they also felt that post-publication peer review is the least popular approach. So lots of people still not very comfortable with that. There was some concern around preprints still, with 1 in 5 concerned that non-peer reviewed content shouldn't be in the public domain, that there could be issues around that. But there was also very high approval for preprints in North and West Europe, so it could be familiarity again. But all respondents felt that in terms of benefits of preprints, the speed is seen as the key benefit of preprints. So that was the case for most respondents, which is really interesting, because we do see that preprints have really had their moment during the pandemic and have been so valuable, but there have also been some issues that we still need to work through in terms of ensuring that people who come across the preprint, particularly if they are not academics, understand what they're reading, understand what it means that it's a preprint, that it hasn't been peer reviewed and validated in that way, and then also what level of validation is needed to give that assurance. And these are all really interesting for me. They're really interesting things for us to work through and to explore together in the future, and as we go forward, about how we evolve the publication workflow in order to really reap the benefits of preprints and to really encourage transparency among researchers. When we asked what publishers could do to improve academic culture, which we feel is an important tenet in order to really mobilize knowledge and also to help with the uptake of open, 61% felt that publishers could help by offering different options for publishing research, and I will come on to what Emerald is doing about this ourselves a few slides later. 45% wanted more support for promoting their research. So I thought that was very interesting, because when we do think about open in the process, we always think that really as long as it's freely available, then that's the end of the story. I think a lot of people feel that's where the publisher's role ends, but it's clear that there are still quite a lot of people who would like support in getting their work out there, getting it understood and getting it read. But we were also pleased to see that very few felt publishers didn't have a role to play in improving academic culture, which is obviously a relief as somebody who works for a publisher. But at the same time, it does show that, again, this is all part of an ecosystem, that there isn't really one actor who can make a difference, and it's on all of us to play our part to slowly evolve culture, which does take time to do. So the barriers that were expressed to open access identified by those surveys included access to funding open publishing, which was no surprise to Emerald, as I said, with so few of our authors having access to APCs. Obviously, I know in countries where you have SciELO, that's perhaps not so much of an issue. But one of the other things that people said was that there were not enough open venues or open platforms, and that this was a real barrier for them. But also the need to conform to those traditional measures of impact, such as the impact factor. And we see that there might be lots of experimentation and people trying to launch different kinds of publications, including Emerald, but still with authors being very much encouraged by their review panels and by their employers to publish in high impact journals in a particular format that is really mostly accessible to academia in terms of language. Then I think that these are all things that make it harder for people to change their behaviour, particularly if they're early career. There was a comment that 30% felt that publishers were resistant, and I do think that is actually a fair comment. Publishers have been resistant. I think Emerald likes to see itself as a publisher that is innovative and that is embracing open, but we do have challenges in how to find the right model for transition, particularly where APCs is not a very sustainable path for us. And so I think that the only thing I would say in defense there is that they are it can be challenging to know which way to go as a publisher, what's the right way. So that may be where some of the resistance has been. But I do hope that going forward, the community will see that publishers are starting to do much more to enable open access within the journals that do exist, but also in developing systems and processes to support it. Again, the disparity of acceptance among disciplines and how that can feed into people's approach to research. And it was quite interesting to see that the influence of what were termed STEM-centric funders was also considered to be a barrier. And this one is quite interesting, because when communities are unfunded, you would think that they would not be so worried about what is happening with the funders or mandates, and obviously in things like Plan S. But I think there is worries about how it does impact those authors who aren't able to participate if they're not following that APC model that is largely advocated by Plan S, or if their institution doesn't have a transformative agreement with the publisher that they want to work with. I think that's worries about author choice, but also just the confusion that comes with, where do I need to publish? Is my discipline going to be left behind? Are people going to support us to publish openly? These are all the sort of concerns that we do tend to hear from time to time. It was interesting that very few, just 6%, felt that there were no challenges to open access. So it's quite interesting when I talk to people who are very knowledgeable about open access. I think we all tend to think that it makes sense to everybody, that everyone's aware of it, that everyone knows what it means. And I think that that's perhaps not the case yet. I think we can see from the slides that we've made real progress. If we've gone from 29% to 51% who are now willing to publish openly and looking to publish openly, but that still leaves 49% who are not yet doing that, which is a huge proportion. So there's clearly still a lot of work to do in order to support people and to make it as easy as possible. So in summary, there is clearly still a lot of work to do for all of us involved in the ecosystem, and we need more support for unfunded authors globally, and for people to be willing to think flexibly about what the options could be. We do need more trusted outlets and to be converting those outlets, but also supporting those outlets to convert. And we clearly need to educate our authors just on the benefits of open access. There's still a lot of work to do, and make open publication as easy as possible for everybody to do. So what is Emerald's plan in transitioning to an open world? I can tell you that despite being the head of open research, I don't have all the answers, but I do work with some wonderful colleagues, and we have great relationships with our communities that I think will help us get there, and that will help us take big leaps forward in the next few years. So it's clear to me that not one actor in the ecosystem has all of the pieces, and that we all need to work together and have dialogue to support the transition, and in particular for researchers who are not at the mercy of who are often at the mercy of opposing incoherent approaches. We must all play our part, because not one entity can unlock it alone. At Emerald, our mantra is that we are open to all, and we aren't interested in raising barriers to publication as we lower the paywall. We want to work with our communities to provide them with the right open route to them, whatever their circumstances. So this is why we offer flexible publishing options, our green zero embargo policy. We have gold journals. We allow open in our hybrid titles, and we have a suite of platinum journals which are supported by institutions and sponsors so that the author doesn't have to pay an APC. And we also publish in a variety of formats, so be that book, articles, or even other forms of content. We are developing our systems to support authors and our customers to publish openly, including our infrastructure. And we have much, much, much more work to do on our open offer, our processes, and our enablers of real impact. And we plan to co-create our future with our communities. So anybody interested should please get in touch with myself or my colleagues on the call, because we do want to help you, and we are here to listen and to make sure that we're building the right thing. To illustrate our approach, if you don't mind, I'd like to end by telling you about Emerald Open Research, just as an exemplar of the things that we're talking about. So we built this in partnership with F1000, and it launched in January of last year. And we built it to showcase the power of open in our disciplines and to our disciplines. Aligned to the UN SDGs, it facilitates open access, open data and open peer review. And the reviews happen after publication. So it is post-publication peer review, which, as we saw in the survey, isn't that popular at the moment. Now, we know that our authors find all of these things challenging. Accessing APCs, it is currently an APC-based platform. They find it very interesting, very challenging to make their data available. We do have to do a lot of support for authors in understanding what their data is, where they should deposit it, what it means to make it open under a CC BY license, for example. And we also see with open peer review that although there are, as an author-led approach, it's really helpful for some authors to overcome what they see as bias in the closed peer review system. And we do see people putting their best foot forward in terms of their reviews. So the reviews are really very good and very thorough and very, very constructive. But in talking to our authors, there's still a lot of angst around that, I'd say. There's still a lot of authors who do worry that that they won't get a good experience if it's openly peer reviewed, that people will judge the first version of their work. But they are able to, once they have published on the platform, once they've had their reviews, they're able to upload additional new versions, updated versions, and they can do so until they get at least 2 ticks. 2 ticks means 2 positive peer reviews. Yes, this work is acceptable. And a question mark means this work needs some work, and you would read the comments to understand what the reviewer says is wrong with that work. And then as soon as they've had 2 positive reviews, then that is then accepted as accepted and searchable via Google. Prior to having those 2 ticks, it's actually searchable on the platform, but it wouldn't come up in a Google search. So, so we publish traditional and non-traditional article types, and we're evolving this all the time in partnership with F1000. And what we really like about this is that it does allow rapid publication, which we have seen it be popular for that reason in terms of the pandemic. But as we said, because our authors actually haven't often got access to APCs, Emerald has actually been covering that cost of publication at this time. And we've been doing that for a period over the summer as the pandemic worsened. In launching this platform, I would say that we've actually gone ahead of our communities. They weren't asking us for this, but we've done this to learn with and from them on how to make open research work within the applied social sciences and achieve real world impact and reality for them. It's been an interesting journey. I think working with F1000, they mostly have expertise in the life sciences, and there's definitely been a learning curve for them as well in how to adapt their model for the social sciences, because it one size does not fit all. I hope that this has been an interesting talk for you all today. I've certainly enjoyed speaking to you. This is my first external presentation since the pandemic. It's very odd for me to be presenting to a screen in my home rather than in a room full of you all where I can judge how things are going. But please do let me know if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to stop sharing my screen now, and then I can hopefully see what everybody has been saying and what the questions might be. Apologies if I'm slow to answer questions. I believe somebody is going to translate the questions for me so that I can answer.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Yeah, hi. Minerva, should I translate or Nadia or someone will be translating the question?
Thank you, Valeria.
I guess I'll be translating. I didn't get any response. Okay. So one of the question is, what do you think? What do you say about the high costs of APCs, in which limits also the publication in open access?
Yeah, I think it depends where the cost. It's a very thorny issue, isn't it? The cost of APCs. I think where publishers are supporting old models, this, including Emerald, this does lead to a high APC. There's a level of service that our authors are used to and expecting. I think that the moves around transparency are quite important to show to people exactly what they're paying for, and I can understand those calls. I think, however, when I see some of the examples of what people would like publishers to make transparent, that they're quite narrow and don't really they don't really take into account what others are doing. In terms of Emerald, what we're keen to do is to enter into transformative agreements where we possibly can, because our authors aren't going to be paying these APCs. It's their institution that will be doing so. So our APC, we have a flat APC, because this is what our library customers find most helpful. It provides a single starting point for the discussion, and therefore then we negotiate with them based on the needs of what their APC is. So what the APC is advertised at isn't necessarily what they're paying. I think waivers are a really important part of this at the moment, but probably not wholly sustainable. I do think as we move forward, it will become clearer where APCs will fall. They're much higher in STEM, for example, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into the articles before they're published. So much research is rejected, and how do you cover the cost of that in the system? So I do think APCs in general are a huge barrier to publication, and there's a lot more work to be done. I think it's really interesting, some of the APC-less models that have started to be trialled elsewhere, so subscribe to open, and I think Emerald, we're very interested in a lot of those models and working with our customers to find alternative routes other than just APCs, which may work for some, but certainly don't work for all of our customers. So
the other question is the average that we charge APCs in Emerald.
So our flat fee is £2,400, which is at the higher end of social science. That's in our hybrid and our gold journals. It's less for Emerald Open Research. We're actually reviewing our pricing of Emerald Open Research just now, planning to also make that APC transparent. That is where our pricing is at the moment. And we monitor pricing quite carefully.
Thank you. We have one question actually in English. What do I need to publish in Emerald?
So, if you, it depends what stage you are at. If you are ready to publish, then I would encourage you to come to our website and to have a look at our titles and see which one you think is the best fit for your journal, and then you can submit. You're welcome to reach out to any of our editors or any of our staff if you would like to have some support before you submit as well. And we're always happy to help direct. So if you're not sure which journal or publication, then do just get in touch, and we're always happy to support you to let you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, André is always doing how to get published seminars. So Renata maybe also can invite Edith Fernandes Sinoue. Yeah, it's her name. So maybe we can try to find her later and give her some time, our schedule for seminars that could help.
We get good feedback on those seminars, so I think they're really important for authors, that they get that understanding of their various different options.
We have another question about how is it possible to change the paradigms?
Paradigms.
Paradigms.
I think they mean shifting the culture. Is that what they mean by this? Do you think shifting the culture?
I think so.
Yeah, I think culture is incredibly difficult to change because culture is very slow to change. There are sometimes big things that happen that shift things along a bit more quickly. Plan S is definitely one of those things, a really important moment for really shifting things along very quickly for funded authors in particular, but it does have ramifications for everybody. But also, I think, as I always say, it's such an ecosystem that it does need everybody to play their role. So I think there's a lot actually that institutions need to be doing, if I may say, around how they incentivize and reward authors. If you are really only rewarded for your publication record in your high impact factor journals and for the number of grants that you get, that there's a lot of really valuable research that is then not being rewarded or understood. This also, we know this also leads to a lot of pressure on academics in terms of their research and their research output that is not necessarily conducive to healthy working practice. But also that there is, I think yeah, there's everybody needs to be playing their part, but I do think that the rewards and incentives is the next step to get a really big movement. If we could tackle that as an ecosystem, that would probably do the most to move things on, in my view, which is why we've signed DORA.
Yeah, I think this was the last question. And if you have some more questions, please forward this to us. We're going to be very happy to answer. I'd like to thank you, Shelley, for this session. And thank you for all the participants. Gracias por todo, por la participación. Y yo creo que si tienen más preguntas pueden nos enviar para mí o para André o también para Shelley, y que tenemos mucho gusto de responderlas. Gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Bye.
Bye.